What's up, everybody? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of Dirtyard Dish. It's Friday, March 20th, and I'm Brendan Dudas, your host and the commissioner of Circle City Wiffle Ball. We're about 2 months away from opening day, and things are really starting to ramp up here on the south side. I've got an info-packed episode for all of you. We've got a lot of moving parts, so I've got team news, a massive new rule change, and then I want to announce some of our prizes for Circle City Wiffle Ball, Fantasy Wiffle Ball, our first season of Fantasy Wiffle Ball. So let's do it.
I can't wait to get back on the road again. Back again. Dude, like for the baggers. Back home again. Back home again. In Indiana land.
Before we get into talking Wiffle, I want to give a brief update on the COVID-19 pandemic situation. Circle City Wiffle Ball is playing this by ear, and while I would like to sit here and promise you that opening day is going to go off on time on May 17th. With the current situation and the unpredictability from day to day, that's simply something I can't really do. If a shutdown does in fact end up happening in which they require everybody to stay inside for an extended period of time, then we'll have no choice but to delay opening day and push it back. Luckily, the wiffle season is short, so we can push it back in the year without much problem, but also it's insignificant compared to what's going on right now. I do think we should really take this seriously. While it might not affect you being young, there's lots of people in and around your lives that it could affect if we act and behave recklessly. It's not time to be selfish. It's really not time to make jokes about it. We've just got to do our part, get this taken care of, and then hopefully we can return to life as it was before the outbreak. Enough of the sad, serious news updates. Let's move on to wiffle ball. To provide a little bit of a league update, we had our board meeting last Thursday at the legendary Speak basement, and like the dirty slushies, the ideas were absolutely flowing. We walked out of the meeting with our 8 teams locked in, a finalized schedule, we've got our opening day pools, we finally have a playoff format in place, and then like I mentioned, a few rule changes, one of which was massive, and it's going to affect the league in a bunch of ways, but we're going to talk about that one later. The 8 teams for the 2020 season are finalized. The Hackers, coached by Eric Stark, and the Outlaws, coached by Aaron, not the quarterback, Rodgers, released their brand new logos. Eric Stark is completely revamping the Crazy Fat Kids. He ditched their logo, ditched the team name. He's getting new jerseys, and he's really tearing that roster down and trying to build something competitive. He's making every effort he can to turn what's really been an unsuccessful franchise into something that brings a competitive product to the field. Aaron Rodgers with the Outlaws is doing a really good job. He's passionate and he's really into coaching this team. He's ordered their jerseys. He's getting a good team around him, and I hear he's still got some moves on the horizon. We don't have a lot of information regarding player movement. Most of the dust is settled around the rosters, but there is one name that's on the move, and that's Alex Gates of the Yackers. As Rudy Lyon attempts to introduce more players to the league, that kind of leaves Alex Gates on the outside looking in on that roster, and there are really 2 options I see for him in terms of good fits. One is the Noodlers. It'd be another solid role in which he would be able to compete for a championship with that team, and the next is the Outlaws. There's the Cincinnati connection there with Aaron Rodgers, and I think that's a team that Alex could absolutely step in. He could be the ace. He could be the bat that they need in their lineup, and he'd really just provide them with a good player on both sides of the ball. It really all kind of depends on what Alex wants out of his next role, but either team he's going to bring a lot to, and I think he probably means more to that Outlaws roster if he were to go there. At the meeting, the 2 World Series coaches from 2019, Mike Speak of the 8 Balls and Rudy Lyon of the Yackers, took turns drafting each other's opening day pools. The result of that opening day draft is the following 2 pools: the 8 Balls, the Short Shorts, the Noodlers, and the Outlaws, and then the Yackers, the Moonshots, the Pork Pistols, and the Hackers. These pools aren't meant to be divisions. They aren't going to determine standings or playoff seedings. Its sole purpose is to provide a schedule format, especially for opening day, and then from there, each team will play all 7 other teams in the league 3 times each for a 21-game regular season. All 8 teams are going to, quote, make the playoffs. And I say quote because technically the bottom 4 teams are going to play 1-game wild card. Those always tend to be really exciting, so that's something we wanted to incorporate. And the reward for a solid regular season will be the top 4 teams avoiding that 1-game wild card, and then the top 2 seeds will get a first-round bye once we are in the 6-team portion of the tournament. As I mentioned, the wild card games will all be 1-game play-ins, and then the rest of the series through the championship round will all be best of 3. We came out of the meeting with our 8 teams locked in, and we've really, except for a few moving parts, really have our rosters all decided as well. I truly think this is the best top 6 we've ever had in league history in terms of talent and the ability to compete for a championship come the end of the season. You had the Hounds fold, and they joined with the Moonshots. Cody House and the Noodlers dropped a bombshell by announcing they were signing Caleb Yonkman, who's one of the best players in the country, to a part-time deal. And those 2 teams were, 5th and 6th place in the standings last season. So you're immediately just catapulting them into title contention if all their pieces come together. And then, of course, you've got the core group of the 8 balls, the Yackers, and the Short Shorts, who, are perennial title contenders. And then the Pork Pistols round that group out as a group who, from the first half and the second half last year, were 2 completely different teams. By the end of the season, they'd figured out their pitching, they understood the strategy at the plate, and they were really a tough team to beat. So any of those 6 teams I can see really competing to win a championship. They've all got an arm that can shut down an offense, and they've all got offenses that understand how to get on base and understand how to score runs, and that's important. Not to leave out the Hackers and the Outlaws. While they might not have dominant hitting or a dominant pitcher, both of these teams have done a really good job of making sure they aren't the doormat of the league, which typically the 7th and 8th teams of CCW have always been. Eric Stark and Aaron Rodgers are really doing a good job of cutting away the part-time guys who maybe weren't very committed to the league and really trying to add in people who are going to be competitive and who are going to show up every night. So I don't see those 2 teams being just absolute stat patter series in 2020. So I'm excited about our 2020 season. I think, like I said, we've got 6 really good teams that are going to be very interchangeable in terms of ranking. And then our bottom 2 teams are bringing up the bottom standard of our league. We're going to see a really fun, a really competitive battle for the title this year at Circle City Wiffle Ball. If I had to go through and rank the teams 1 through 8 right now, given the information I have about each roster, I'd have to put the 8 balls at the top. They're defending champs. They've made it to the World Series 3 straight years, and they still have Mike Jr. on their roster. I'm going to put the Moonshots number 2 because of all the weapons that they've added this year, and they're returning the legend Austin Church to the Dirtyard in a full-time capacity this year. The Short Shorts, depending on Aiden Palmer's ability to hit the board this year, I'm going to slot them in at number 3. The Yackers will slide in at number 4. They've got one of the best 2-way players in the league in Rudy Lyon, and he's always going to keep them in games. And then the Noodlers and the Pistols round out that top 6. And I think, again, these teams are interchangeable, and the whole top 6 could be interchangeable to an extent. The Noodlers, depending on if they have Caleb Yonkman at the field, are going to be title contenders. And the Pistols, with Christian Leffler really, coming into form at the end of the season, they're going to be a tough beat. And any 6 of these teams could win the title this year, and I really just kind of see a season in which no team just runs away with it. And then rounding out the initial power rankings, I've got the Hackers coming in at 7th. I think their roster is a little more set up to compete than the Outlaws at this point, and that comes from the fact that I don't really know much about the roster that Aaron Rodgers is building. Now that I've discussed where we stand from a team standpoint and a talent standpoint, let's go into some of the rule changes we made at the 2020 league meeting. The first rule change comes in the form of introducing a dead ball upon a successful peg or the ball entering the pitcher's circle. Previously, runners have been free to run at will, no matter where the ball was on the field or if the pitcher had it or there was a successful peg attempt. So we really wanted to limit that ability and reward a peg out. Our decision was to limit the base runners to the next base they were advancing to and then no further. So they all get that next base no matter where they are in the process of advancing, but then they're cut off there. Compared to the previous rule in which we just allowed runners to circle the bases at will when the ball was in play, We are limiting the base runner to just the extra base, and I think this will really rein in the situations in which we've got runners getting in pickles or sneaking off the base in order to draw a throw, and really just bring some order to base running and fielding in Circle City Wiffle Ball. We don't have the capability with multiple umpires to introduce a halfway point or to judge that at all. So we're going all or nothing. We're just giving them the extra base and limiting it to that one base, and we really feel like this is an improvement over the previous rule. We had a proposal for errors and fielders' choices to start being counted, and that was a hard no from everybody in the league except for Thomas Hopkins of the Pork Pistols. Our main argument for this is it's going to be really hard to track and to count on the stat system. And secondly, wiffle ball's just hard. It's hard to field the ball with the spin and the bounces. So I see no play as routine, and therefore it's really hard to start counting errors. And as you get all these moving pieces, it gets really hard to track. Almost unanimously felt that was not necessary. Now, the massive rule change that truly I didn't see coming until a few days before the league meeting, but our board, all 14 members except for one, voted to confirm this rule proposal. After ball 4, the hitter will have the choice of taking his walk or receiving lob pitches to hit. Now, if he opts for the pitch to hit, the at-bat only ends when the ball's put in play, he swings and misses, or he allows the balls to hit the K-zone. This is huge. This is something that's going to change the trajectory of our league from a pitching and a hitting standpoint. I'm truly really interested to see how this affects the league moving forward, how this affects the scores of games or the strategies of pitchers and hitters. But ultimately, I think our goal is to provide a fun and exciting game for players. And as we saw strikeouts and walks spike while balls in play and home runs plummeted, I just sort of felt like this is a change that needed to be made. Managing a successful league takes a lot of analyzing and tweaking your rules to make sure things remain balanced, honestly. And this is a tweak we saw necessary given the trends we saw in 2019. I want to bring Rudy Lyon, the assistant commissioner and manager of the Yackers, on here to discuss this rule and the effects of the rule moving forward. Rudy, why do you think this rule change was needed? Is it something that CCW just had to do?
Though I don't think this rule change absolutely had to happen, I'm excited for this hitter's choice rule to come into play when we get a ball 4 situation. I think our data and our statistics would show that walks have increased over the past couple years. Though it may seem slight, it's still an increase and something that we can nip in the bud now. And our home run numbers have dropped. So from 2018 to 2019, our average walks per game increased from 17.1 to 18.6 walks a game. And our homers dipped a whole homer per game. And I don't think that's a testament to more dominant pitching. I think that's a little bit of a growing pain from adapting to a full fast-pitch league. Maybe guys are overthrowing, not worrying about throwing strikes as much. They're relearning how hard to throw a ball and how it correlates to its break and all that. So there was a potential that we could have decreased the walk rate just by guys having a full year under their belt of pitching in a fast-pitch league and adapting. But I think you can immediately, by incorporating this hitter's choice rule, bring a little bit more excitement into the game where we're not just seeing guys trotting down to first base, but cutting off probably 6 walks per game, I would think.
So what kind of strategies do you see coming into play because of this hitter's choice rule?
If there is a team that's throwing 9 walks versus another team in the same game that's giving up 9 walks a game, maybe 3 each are choosing to swing away. Maybe those happens in innings 1 through 5. You may be taking cuts, and then later in the game, if it's a close game in the 6th, you may think strategically just to get base runners on. But again, if it's the 6th inning and you're down a couple and you need to start doing some damage and get your way back into the game, you might be swinging away.
And lastly, before I let you go, which teams do you see this rule benefiting most? Is it going to be a strong pitching team or maybe a weak hitting team or a mixture of both?
I don't know exactly how this is going to play with each of the teams. I would think that this benefits the teams that are more pitcher focused, who have an arsenal of arms to use that are accurate. And this is looking at you, 8Balls with the Speaks. They don't walk a ton of guys in the 2-game series as it is, so this is only going to benefit their hitting. That they've been known to be a lighter hitting team. This is going to help them. I think the Yakkers, it could benefit them as they continue to develop offensively, just to build confidence in some of the less experienced hitters. I think the teams at the bottom of the standings, or an expansion team who's just getting used to the league, it's going to help them. All in all, though, again, it's going to create more excitement, more strategy, and it'll be a cool twist to see how it plays out and compares to other leagues in the country. And ultimately, it's a small tweak that isn't going to affect us negatively when it comes to competing in the NCAA tournament as well.
It's absolutely going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the course of the season. I do anticipate us getting out there for some sort of spring training in order to, just see how the game will work differently with this new rule in place. I did reach out to a few of the coaches and key players in our league for input, just regarding the change in general. Both Blake Voris of the Moonshots and Thomas Hopkins of the Pork Pistols cited an increase in action and excitement on the field as their reason for voting this rule in. I think last year we saw a lot of walks, a lot of strikeouts, and just less balls put in play. So I absolutely agree with them on this point. It's going to result in more action and a more exciting style of play. Mike Jr. of the 8Balls, after initially opposing the rule with the rest of their squad, they got together and they decided that this is something that's going to benefit them a lot in ways that Rudy described in the previous piece. And then Dylan Jones was the only board member who voted against it, and he just cited that he's worried it's going to cause hitters to stand up there and be less aggressive, which I can absolutely see. But a counterpoint to that is that it might make pitchers realize they've got to hit the board. They don't have 3 free walks to give up before giving up a run, so they know they've got to put it on the board or they're going to be giving up home runs. And I see it sort of balancing itself out in that way. I think the only thing that's really certain given this rule change is that it's going to bring a massive change in the style of play at the Dirtyard this summer. Personally, I'm really excited to see more defensive plays and more balls in play and just less marching around the bases from walks. I think it's a win in total for Circle City Wiffle Ball. And although it doesn't necessarily directly prepare us for the NWLA tournament, like I mentioned before, my main goal is to provide just a fun and exciting experience for our players. And if guys are getting bored with the fact that fast pitch is turning into a walk fest, then as a league, we've got to make a decision that really pleases most of the league members and puts the best, most exciting product on the field. They're out there all summer, giving it 21 games plus playoffs. So we've got to do what's in the best interest of our league and our players as a whole. And I feel like this rule vote is definitely in line with that. I'm sure we're going to discuss this more. We've got some episodes coming up with guests coming on, and they're surely going to have opinions on this. So let's move on to our last part of the episode. I want to talk Fantasy Wiffle Ball prizes. I want to announce some of those and get you pumped up for the season. Rosters are due just the week before opening day on May 10th. We've decided that the top 5 entries are going to receive prizes, and those 5 entries will receive their choice of prize in order from 1 to 5. Right now, what we have lined up, we've got some cool Circle City Wiffle Ball hats that I'm sure you've seen on social media. We are getting some signed memorabilia from the Indy Indians, who are the AAA affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates. The last time they donated something, it was an Austin Meadows signed ball, who then proceeded to win Rookie of the Month and absolutely blow up last season for the Tampa Bay Rays after he was traded. And then I'm also working on some other signed memorabilia. I don't want to discuss that yet. We'll release that once it's confirmed. And I'd also like to float the idea of getting some MLB tickets as one of our prizes. So we're going to have just some really good things for you to win. It's super easy to enter. Just head to circlecitywiffleball.com/fantasy-wiffle. That's going to have all the information you need regarding rules and entry. And if you have any questions about that, don't be afraid to reach out. Again, you have till May 10th to submit your roster. It's really easy. You pick 3 pitchers and 3 hitters while staying under the $20 budget, and then you leave it. You don't set lineups, you don't make trades or sign free agents. You just let the Circle City Wiffle Ball players play. They're going to rack up points for you. And then the top 5 scores at the end of the year are going to win some really awesome prizes. My hope in doing this fantasy wiffle ball this year for the 2020 season is that it builds a little excitement and interest surrounding all of the players in our league. So please head to the circlecitywiffleball.com/fantasy-wiffle. Get your team registered, start strategizing, figure out the roster you want to build, and submit that before May 10th in order to be eligible for the prizes. Another fun league development, the Pork Pistols, Thomas Hopkins and company have announced that they are going to host at least 1 or 2 episodes of what's going to be called the Pork Roast. Really, nobody is safe from this, and judging by the videos I've seen of the roasts they do for their slow pitch softball team, it's going to be an absolute slaughter. And as the commish, I'm a little concerned for my safety, and I know I'm probably going to get the brunt of the force on the insults. But this is just something fun we saw to maybe create some rivalries, but to inject some humor into our season and to really provide some more just different content and some differing voices in our league. So again, Pork Roast hosted by the Pork Pistols is coming the week after opening day. We'll do 1 episode then, and then hopefully a live stream of one of the games in which they completely roast the guys playing and whoever else they really feel like doing. That's all I have for you on today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok. We're really attempting to put out more content, and we're rolling out videos and graphics and podcasts and you name it on a weekly basis. Just trying to bring you more information and more fun content from Circle City Wiffle Ball. Coming up, we've got 1 more episode on the bi-weekly track scheduled for April 3rd. After that, we're going to pick up the pace and do an episode every week leading up to opening day. We'll start with 2 team previews per week, and then we'll end it with a season prediction show just the Friday before opening day. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you again on April 3rd.
I can't wait to get back on the road again. Back again. Dude, like for the baggers. Back home again. In Indiana land.